We're getting new information from Google and YouTube about how they handled this behind the scenes. Perhaps the most stunning is that YouTube itself removed thousands of repostings of this video. Tell us a little bit more about what YouTube is saying.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting much more from YouTube. I mean, this morning, their initial reaction was that obviously they were trying to find any postings of this video and quickly take it down. Now they say they've removed it thousands of times. And, you know, the criticism here is, why was it going up in the first place? If we knew this video existed, we knew what it looked like, why couldn't you teach your algorithms quickly to recognize new posts of it and take them down before they even showed up? And it seems that the technology to do that quickly just isn't quite there yet.
So, Jamil, you know, there are so many disturbing things about this story. Yes, it's the video going online even once, and then it's thousands and thousands of people reposting it. I mean, can these companies even handle this, or has the monster already created and the genie, or whatever you want to call it, you can't put it back in the bottle?
Well, look, Emily, I mean, obviously these companies don't want this stuff on their platforms. They don't want Russian disinformation. They don't want terrorist videos, whether it's of this variety or of ISIS beheading people in the Middle East. They're trying to get this material off their platforms because at the end of the day, they depend on user eyeballs on this. And people are not going to come back if there's videos of people being murdered in mosques or people being beheaded out in the Middle East or Russian fake news. And so people aren't coming back for that. And so these platforms have a desire, and frankly an economic desire, to get this stuff off their platforms, and they're working on it. Now, to be sure, have they done enough? No. Could they do more? Absolutely. Is the right answer federal legislation or some regulator coming in to try and shut it down? We know how slow federal regulation laws are. The idea somehow that they'd be able to keep up or make the technology better is kind of silly in my mind.
Right. Let's talk about the execution, though, and I'm going to push back on you a little. I mean, murders, suicides have been live streamed on Facebook before. I mean, maybe the problem isn't with the technology. It's the fact that Facebook allows live streaming at all. You can easily go to YouTube and see plenty of things that cross the line that haven't been taken down yet. With regard to this, or other issues, many conspiracy theories have proliferated on YouTube for years, and the company hasn't done enough about it.
Well, look, I think, Emily, there's a line between conspiracy theories and things that are, people have different ideas about the world and want to express these views. I think there's a line between that and what you'd call sort of hate speech or incitement or things where there are murders or suicides. I think there's a line there. And I suppose you could have laws that police that line. But as a general matter, at least here in the United States, our philosophy has been people know how to police that line, and we only bar by law the most extreme things, and that's sort of, child pornography, for example. And then we let the market sort the rest of that out. And frankly, I think that these companies have an economic incentive. I think you're right that there have been challenges, and there have been things that you and I might not want to see, or ideas that we think are silly, 9/11 conspiracy theorists. That being said, it doesn't mean that the platforms have sort of responsibility to take those things down. One thing we should also think about is, what responsibility do users who retweet this stuff and repost it have with respect to getting the story further out there? I think that everyone should be taking a close look at what they're doing, and if they're reposting and retweeting it, you're part of the problem, not the solution.
Yes, but also maybe the way that the platform has designed to allow that reposting to happen in the first place is also part of the problem. Right, Garrett?
I suppose so. You could argue that.
So talk to us a little bit, Jamil. We had Tom Wheeler, the former FCC chair, on Bloomberg earlier today, talking about the very line that you're trying to draw here. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Clearly, there are First Amendment rights and there are rights of speakers, but we need to figure out just where do you draw the line? What's the equivalent to shouting fire in the crowded theater in the internet age?
Jamil, where do you draw that line?
Well, I mean, I think the line is where it's always been. Shouting fire in a crowded theater, shouting fire in a crowded theater. This isn't that. This is something different. This is something that's vile and hugely disturbing. This isn't something that's going to incite people to further violence, although this might be designed to do that. So this might actually cross that line, now that I'm thinking about it as we speak here, because it is designed to cause terror and cause further hate. So maybe this does cross that line, right? But the question is, do we want the government coming in and regulate that, or do we want these platforms to do what they're going to do anyways? I mean, it's clear that what's happening here is these platforms are trying to take it down. They're not good at it. Could the law make it better? Could the law sort of force the technology to get better? That seems unlikely, and that's where I worry that we try to get sort of in regulations and sort of start changing technology in ways that are actually going to be productive for the end result we want, which is rapid removal of this bad stuff.
So if the government can't do it or shouldn't do it, or the law you think perhaps shouldn't, necessarily apply here, and the companies aren't doing it, whether they can't or they won't, then where does that leave us? How does that keep this from happening again?
Well, I do think that, some people can vote with their feet, right? If you're seeing stuff on social media platforms that you don't like, that you think is problematic, you can express that to the platforms. You can make that clear by getting off the platforms. And so I think these companies will realize, and I think they're already realizing, I think that since the last elections, the companies are realizing that they are not benefited by having this kind of material on there. We've seen a huge sort of rebellion online against terrorist videos coming from overseas. I think you're going to see the same thing happening here with this particular video. You'll see a real reaction. Now, there are always going to be people at the extremes who actually like this stuff and want it on there. But we're going to push those people off these platforms. We're going to push those people to the margins. And the vast majority of us who think this stuff is vile and inappropriate need to make our voices heard. And the platforms, I think, are responding, and I think they'll respond faster the more that those voices are heard.